September 28, campaigns into various elective positions will be flagged off, and there are expectations of intrigues and high-level politicking in Nigeria, with 18 presidential candidates vying to take over the mantle of leadership in the country. The expected games have started in full swing. Experience, character, and track record are top factors considered in voters' choice of candidates, and Nigerians have been talking about the coming polls and what to expect. We'll be discussing the build-up to the opening of the campaigns ahead of the 2023 elections and what Nigerians should look forward to. Welcome to The Square. I'm Sulaiman. Well, for our viewers across Africa and the rest of the world, the Independent Electoral Commission in Nigeria, otherwise known as INEC, is the electoral umpire. And the electoral umpire has revealed that more than 96 million Nigerians have registered to vote, with campaigns ahead of the elections expected to begin on Wednesday. The political candidates have seen their army of supporters go all out for them as they continue to roll out their antecedents. What stands every candidate out is uniquely different, and we'll be analyzing the key points in these various campaigns, committees, and what Nigerians expect. Now, from the ruling party, where we've seen key names omitted in the campaign committee, to the issues in the main opposition, the People's Democratic Party, the focus is 2023 and the expectations of Nigerians. Austyn Ogannah, the publisher of THEWILL Newspaper, he's been keeping a tab on the political development in Nigeria, joins me now. Good to see you, Austyn, and thanks for your time as always.
Thank you for having me on the show. It's always a pleasure to discuss.
Well, I recall almost 4 years ago, you and I were sat looking at some developments in Nigeria leading up to the 2019 election. Here we are again. It looks like deja vu, but this time it looks like no more a two-horse race, as we have so many other candidates. Now, what do you make of the presidential candidates? Let's start by making it look a little bit, spread out now, Austyn.
Thank you again. It's the season. On Wednesday, campaigns will formally begin in Nigeria. And as well aware, there are three main presidential candidates in this election. Some will expand it to 4, to include Engineer Rabiu Kwankwaso of the New Nigeria People's Party, the NNPP. But otherwise, it's actually a two-way election as we see today. The elections will be held today. It's going to be a very close race between Peter Obi, who happens to be the surprise, well, some people say he's the front runner, but I would say he's a disruptor. He reminds me of President Trump in 2016 when Trump emerged against all the calculations. So you have Peter Obi, you have Sulaiman Aledeh of the ruling All Progressives Congress, and also tested and trusted Atiku Abubakar of the People's Democratic Party. So the dynamics for this election, we're looking at an election that we've never seen, had in the history of following elections in this country. You have a candidate, Peter Obi, who seems to have the biggest momentum, whose supporters seem to be the most enthused amongst every supporters of candidates in the race, seeming to redefine or reshape the political narrative in this country. Because we've always known that presidential election, every politics at the state level in this country has always been between the People's Democratic Party and the All Progressives Congress.
And let me jump in here, Austyn, and you say, because just before this moment, we've had you on the show, and you were still very specific, and now you have come to say that love him or hate him, the Labour Party candidate can't be discountenanced here in this race, Peter Obi. Now, we'll come back to looking at these candidates and their political parties. But again, let's start with the APC in no particular order. The omission of the Vice President, Yemi Osinbajo, from the ruling party's campaign team has been taken in different contexts. Austyn, help us make sense of this, because the party has been speaking, trying to make reasons why the gentleman's name is absent.
There's absolutely, well, it's all party politics, if that's how they want to do it. But if you follow the APC, you will know that there's one within the party, just like the People's Democratic Party. Now, it came to some of us as a surprise that Vice President Yemi Osinbajo did not make the cut from the All Progressives Congress Presidential Campaign Council, which comes to many of us as a surprise, because as a sitting vice president, after the president, he's the second man in the party, whether we like it or not. So for the party itself, to constitute, we hear that there are even issues in the party with regards to how the campaign council was put together. So that's an internal party issue that needs to be sorted. But I think that, it's only Vice President Osinbajo probably not occupying a prominent role or missing from that campaign council. There are many other big books in the APC that are not there. But I believe that it's all politics. It's probably what the presidential candidate of the party wants. Because I know that there are rancors and there are divisions. You don't have party politics is. But just what it is, it's politics taking home, and that's what it is.
And now you say that his name is not the only name missing out from that list, and some one of the spokespersons, another learned lawyer in Nigeria, Femi, I beg your pardon, Festus Keyamo, had spoken out, and he's giving reasons that the absence of Nigeria's vice president from that campaign list is as a result of the president's instruction. As one of Africa's, journalists following political happenings in the country, have you been able to find out the true picture of that particular scenario, Austyn?
I don't want to speculate, but I know that that was just Mr. Keyamo is a very good friend. That was probably an afterthought. I do not believe, like most of my colleagues, that the president gave an express position that the vice president should be excluded. I don't think it's, I can't stand for it, so I really don't want to speculate. If he says that's what it is, then we'll just take it for what it is. I haven't done any major investigations over it, so I will not be in a very good position to dispute or discountenance what he said. But the fact remains that there's rancor definitely in the All Progressive Congress, just like.
Now, when you talk about rancor in the ruling All Progressives Congress, we seem to also say the same in the People's Democratic Party. Are these, affecting the two major political parties as it stands? Because we have just less than 72 hours for the campaigns to start.
Oh, absolutely. You see, the campaigns, will probably start on Wednesday, probably on Thursday, by God's grace, and we watch the race unfold. But there are definitely, it appears to be like only the Labour Party, at least for now, appears not to have any major issues that probably determine the outcome of the election for the party. But in the APC and the PDP, these are very experienced politicians. And naturally, they will have disagreements and what have you. But if you look at the problem within the APC, I know that, at some point, they probably, if they're able to, manage the egos, of some of the major players in the party. I personally know that someone like Nasir El-Rufai, in a very important government APC, is not happy with the way the presidential campaign of Bola Tinubu is being handled. I know that for sure. I also know that there are a couple of other big wigs that are being reached out to by the PDP, for instance, and its candidate. So in this, at some point in this conversation, I had said that this is an election like no other that we've ever had in history. What we know today is that some governors, I'm not going to mention names, but some governors in the PDP are reaching out to their counterparts in the APC to see how they can work for their candidates. And some governors in the PDP as well are doing the same vice versa. So it's, these are very experienced politicians. What you have today is a lot of horse trading, because we all know that there's really no difference between the PDP and the APC.
And Austyn, how much of an advantage will the experience of these big politicians, especially in these two political parties, bring on the side of their political parties? Quickly here, I'm saying this on the grounds that the Labour Party presidential candidate, for many, they still think that the highest level he's so far attained in Nigerian politics has been the position of a governor, because the last time he ran as a vice presidential candidate on the biggest opposition party, the PDP.
Let's take a look at Peter, for instance, as governor. He was governor for 8 years, right? That's a lot of experience. Anambra is one of the most important states in the country by virtue of the amount of trade that goes on in Anambra. So, in terms of experience, you cannot discountenance that he is experienced politically. And also, in terms of the fact, like you said, that he's been the vice presidential candidate of a once ruling party, is also a plus for him. Then also look at his antecedents in the private sector. We know it to be over time to be one of the major international traders in this country, trading commodities and confectionery. So he's got a seat also in banking. He's chairman of one of the major financial institutions in Nigeria, Fidelity Bank. He was one-time chairman and obviously founder of the bank. So he's so he's been able to harness the support of youth. We actually thought his campaign would stop at that, but from what we've seen and what we've heard, from the videos and from those that I've never been to any of his campaigns, but from what we've seen that the support base is actually outside the internet. It's actually more than the internet. The support base is actually outside the youth. You have people that are in their 50s, 40s, 55, 35. Those you probably not consider youth. Backing him in huge numbers. So that's giving him a lot of momentum. That's recharging the Labour Party. The Labour Party has always been there, but nobody knew anything about the Labour Party until Peter adopted the party, and he seems, to be growing every day. But when he started his campaign, we all thought it would fizzle out over time, but he hasn't. Instead, I remember we ran a cover story about 3 months ago, about 4 months ago, when we noticed this momentum. And we did a cover story on the wheel, on P2B, and saying this guy may actually disrupt the political space. And he's actually doing more than that. And in some polls, he's actually on top. Look at
and Austyn, just before your cover story, Nigerians, especially Nigerian politicians, would always say to the people who care to listen that, well, you must have a structure across the 774 local government area in Nigeria for you to be, ever considered a force in Nigeria's presidential political journey. But the man, Peter Obi, of the Labour Party, hasn't actually shown that before this movement. Do you think there'll be something quite different about next year's election, owing to what we're seeing within the Labour Party and his movement now known as the Obedient Movement? Austyn.
Yes. You see, I said something earlier, which I'd like to repeat again, and I'm saying this for emphasis, so that voters, analysts, everyone interested in Nigerian politics will understand. We've never had an election cycle like this, and we will not have an election like this in the past. In 2023, in February, the presidential election, when people go out to vote, the only way you be allowed to vote is if your voter's card and your biometrics are recognized by the INEC PVC reader. If it doesn't recognize you, you will not be able to vote. Unlike in the past, when you have a system that when you bring your card and you do your biometrics in the voting machine and it doesn't recognize you, INEC will give you a form that they call an incident form that you fill and you'll be allowed to vote. And this is how politicians, have managed to rig elections. But that is not going to happen this time. So the only way you can rig this election as a politician or as a rigger is if you take money to the field to go and induce voters. That is the only way to rig, or you successfully hack the INEC system. There is no other way around it. So the numbers you're going to get will reflect the true numbers of those that actually voted. And you see it in the results, that at the end of the day, I'm sure in the last election, we'll probably have 30 to 35 million of voters. But in this election, you'll probably see a huge reduction in those numbers. So just take out 30 to 40, maybe 25, 30% of those numbers. So in this election, you see genuine numbers. And this is what people now understand, that is making them, appreciate the fact that they have the powers now to choose whether they want to lead them. And you know what? The candidate that is benefiting from this is Peter Obi. That is why he has the momentum. That is why if you go out there and gather 10, 15, 20 people and ask them, especially in the South, who they want to vote for, they will tell you, Peter Obi. Will this change before the election? We don't know. But the more we tend to see the candidates when they campaign, I believe that most Nigerians will take a decision on whom they want to vote for. I was with some elders yesterday, some political strategists, and I said something. I said the campaigns are about to start. War without any candidate that falls ill or falls during the campaign, their presidential campaign will be dead on arrival, because Nigerians are not ready for any president that will be stable. We're already in a terrible place. So my advice to all the candidates, just go and be well, go and be fit. The Nigerians will not cut any candidate aside. If you fall ill on the campaign, that is the end of the election. I'm going back to Peter Obi, like since the one we're talking about. He's been able to put a coalition together, right? Some of them are silent supporters because they don't want to come out openly to say they're for him. It reminds me of President Trump in 2016, that we all wrote off. We all said it's not possible. This man is a clown. This man is this, man is that. All the polls, the pundits, not giving him a chance. But some people kept saying, this guy has momentum at the grassroots that nobody took seriously. And, I know he won by the electoral college, he didn't win the majority votes.
Austyn, let me jump in here. That's the United States of America. But in Africa, Nigeria, there seems to be a lot of tribal inclinations to the election. Now, these political parties and candidates you've highlighted, Rabiu Kwankwaso, Atiku Abubakar, Bola Tinubu, and Peter Obi, they seem to all be divided across regional lines. How much of a threat is this to the quality of choices Nigerians will make next year?
You see, considering the way the country is structured, the country, especially right now, is very polarized. Some people are going to vote across ethnic lines. It's always happened here. Some people are going to vote by virtue of the fact that, oh, this is my brother. But I still believe that majority, especially at this point where, I mean, we've all seen the country. Many of us are not happy. I believe those that are not happy with the state of the country and the majority. So I believe that in these round of elections, the ethnic or religious card will only play for those that are not literate. That is what I believe. I believe that voters will go out there to choose among these 3 or 4 people, the front runners. Voters will look at them, look at their records, look at what they stand for, look at what they've done, look at their capacity, look at their health, look at everything about them, and decide whom they want to vote for based on whatever convictions that they choose. Especially the way the country is right now, there's a lot of frustration. A lot of us are frustrated. People are not happy. I know the government today, appears to have gotten its act together in terms of problems with the security challenges, particularly in the north. But other than that, people are not happy with the state of the economy. There's a lot of headwinds. I know it's not only in Nigeria. Inflation is a problem everywhere in the world. But the truth is, it's how you feel it in your pocket that will determine how you vote. And in this election, there are 2 main issues: the economy and security. So whichever political party or whichever candidate is able to convince voters that follow me and I'll give you the change that you deserve, that is where the election is going to go.
Well, no doubt, Austyn. We'll come back to the issues, certainly. But again, we're still looking at, a potpourri of issues within the political parties. And in a zigzag form, we've touched the APC and the PDP. But again, still going back to the PDP, there seem to be some clashes, skirmishes, political battles within the party. What do you make of that within the PDP and the reaction of some governors within the PDP?
You see, it's so unfortunate that the PDP is battling what it's battling. It's absolutely unnecessary with the way they've managed their crisis, especially relating to how their presidential candidates emerged. I was one of those that canvassed for 2 major political parties to zone the presidential, their presidential tickets to the south to avoid this confusion. Because the truth is, whether we like it or not, we're in a country called Nigeria that is very diverse in every form. We've had the current president, Muhammadu Buhari, is from the north. And naturally, after his tenure, irrespective of whatever political party, that should field the candidate, I personally believe that I still believe so that power should shift to the south. But in the PDP, they had a different agenda. I don't know why they did what they did, but they've done it, and now you have a problem because we followed their presidential primary, and it was clear that Nyesom Wike, the governor of the State, was the front runner. We said it, everyone said it, but there was a coalition, against him that made sure that he didn't emerge. Party politics is what it is, not a problem. But the process that led to the emergence of Ifeanyi Okowa as the vice presidential candidate of the PDP is what I believe, made it more difficult for the party to manage Wike. Because the truth is, we followed that whole process. There was a group that was constituted that had the mandate to recommend or choose a vice presidential candidate for Atiku. This group met and they were going to vote, but we heard that IU stopped the voting process and just said, look, just in terms of, the mandate is not for you guys to vote. The mandate is just to let us know who your preference is. And clearly, Wike, came tops. We heard that authoritatively. But what happened was, it's in Atiku's prerogative to choose his deputy, not a problem. But he should have gone that route if he did not want this group to influence whoever he emerges. So that infuriated me that you still reject. You guys conspired against me in Abuja during the primary, and I didn't emerge. And now you're conspiring against me again, even when I'm also highly favored to emerge. I'm not going to have it. In fact, IU has not been fair. IU should go. And unfortunately, Wike, that's where you also have a major problem, because Wike has been the one that has been choosing the PDP's national chairman. He chose Modu Sharif after the party lost the election when Adamu Muazu left. Modu Sharif came, held the party to the jugular. Sharif left. I think he brought Secondus. Secondus, Wood was chairman for about 2.5 to 3 years. He got Secondus removed. He brought Ayu. Ayu is there, and Ayu is not playing, the game he wants Ayu to play. Now he wants Ayu to go. But the leaders of the party, when I leaders of the party, those that were the grandfathers of the party, when Wike was probably local government chairman, the hierarchy of the party, those that from the party have said to me that, look, Wike, you cannot wield the kind of power that you wield, that you want to wield.
And that's right, comment, Austyn. We'll take a moment. When we come back, we'll talk more about the man Nyesom Wike, how powerful or otherwise he is in the PDP and in the coming elections. And of course, I'll also talk about the Wike's group's antics and how that is affecting the PDP presidential candidate Atiku Abubakar. And of course, how Tinubu may or may not be able to navigate the Muslim ticket and the frustrations of Nigerians that may affect the outcome of the coming elections. That's when we return. Stay with us. If you just joined us, you're watching Village Square Africa, broadcasting live from Lagos, Nigeria. And for those wondering if you live in these parts of Lagos where electricity has been cut off, news coming in has it that, it is due to a collapse from the national grid in the country, and that the country experienced a collapse at the national grid at about 10:55 a.m. Today, 26 September 2022, causing the outage currently being experienced in parts of Nigeria's capital, Abuja, and some parts of Lagos, Nigeria's economic capital. Now we'll continue with our look at some political developments, and I've been speaking with Austyn Ogannah, who is the publisher of THEWILL Newspapers. Now, looking at Nigeria's electoral umpire, INEC, claiming its readiness ahead of Nigeria's election, there have been allegations of disenfranchisement by some Nigerians who were unable to complete their registration. The APC will seek to extend its leadership of Nigeria next year, but there are at least 3 opposition to that ambition, as highlighted earlier on by Austyn. The Labour Party's Peter Obi, and of course Atiku Abubakar, and love him or hate him, Rabiu Musa Kwankwaso, whether he's a spoiler, but he's in the race. While the talks of party and political structure have been started as weaknesses, recent political events in the world and in Africa suggest unpredictability. Now, in the ruling party, there are some of Nigeria's most popular politicians all working to deliver the mandate for the party's candidate, Bola Tinubu. Still with me, Austyn Ogannah. Austyn, quickly, let's start looking at some of the key issues now. But quickly first, Nyesom Wike, we'll stop looking at Nyesom Wike. How important is the governor of Rivers State in Nigeria's southern region is to the victory or otherwise of the biggest opposition, the PDP?
Governor Wike is a very important factor in the PDP in the sense that he can do, whether he's doing a lot of damage, whether we like it or not. That's, I mean, the feel that we're getting is that, you know, he's doing the PDP brand and Atiku Abubakar a lot of damage. But Wike is also doing himself a lot of damage, because we see a situation where at the end of the day, you know, he's in the party. How's he going to do it? You know, he would work against Atiku Abubakar in the presidential election, and then what happens at the governorship and National Assembly elections, where he is sponsoring candidates. He has a governorship candidate that he wants to deliver. That we hear today that those in the PDP that are up in arms against Wike are seeing that he's defeated in that election. So as Wike is planning to spoil it for Atiku, his people in the states that are up in arms against, that are in support of Atiku, are working towards making sure that his governorship candidate loses in that election. You know, so for Wike, he's caught up, you know, in a very tight situation, because we hear he's leaning, you know, towards working with the candidate of the APC. And if that happens, you know, how does he balance it out? Because in the same election, the same presidential election, you have the National Assembly election on the same ballot, and Wike has 3 senatorial candidates and at least 6 House of Representative candidates to deliver in that election. So how is he going to do it? And we all know how elections work. On election day, the governor is going to be in his village, in the polling unit in his village, you know, trying to deliver his own polling unit, trying to deliver his own ward. You probably not know what is happening in other places. Governors influence election not because they do it alone, they do it with a group of influential politicians that are influential in their own domains. You know, so the worst Wike can do for the party is what he's doing right now. You know, damaging the party in the media, opening up about all the intrigues, trying to demarket Atiku and the party. But in doing so, he's also putting himself. Because I see a situation where in the presidential election, Wike will not be able to damage Atiku the way he would really want to damage him. And then what happens? If, for instance, Atiku wins, we think Wike's candidate will win the governorship election? Of course not. You know, so he's, you know, I think he's overwhelmed. You know, he's like, you know, the bull in the china shop. You know, he's angry, feels hurt. He's like that beautiful bride that has been scorned. But I'm really, you know, I was talking to Chief of the PDP earlier today, and I said to him, I was actually close to the campaigns, and I said, you guys did not manage Wike well. You didn't have to get here. You didn't have to get here. And he said, no. You see, that the fight for the chairmanship of the PDP is not even for this election.
So Austyn, you think there's a better way to have gone around this?
Oh, absolutely. You see, in politics, you know, there are deals to be done. Wike says it on TV. He said, look, there's nothing I can do about the presidential election. It's come and gone. So the presidential primary, it's come and gone. There's nothing I can do about the VP ship. Okola has it, it's gone. But there's something we can do today, and that do is to remove, to have Iyorchia removed as party chair. So that is the deal today. That is what is on the table. But I don't think it's going to happen, even if a lot of people think it is. Because I understand, you know, like I said earlier, that the founding fathers of the PDP, like the General Sosa Co, have said that, look, enough of Wike, we're not giving him any more room. If he does not accept Ayu, then move.
But quickly here, Austyn, how true is it that it was Nyesom Wike who held the party together after the 2015 election? You know, many still think that when President Jonathan lost that election, almost every member of the PDP, you know, well, were not seen on the political radar, but for Nyesom Wike, who single-handedly kept the party together financially.
That is 100% correct. He funded the party, he tried to put the party together. But the people in the party will tell you, look, we've compensated him enough. We've compensated him enough. He's got how many chairmen? I've just counted them. The former governor of Borno State, Uche Secondus, he's brought Ayu. He's been compensated with a lot of slots in the National Working Committee of the party. Wike has been allowed to almost do whatever he wanted to do in the party. But right now, the founding fathers are saying enough of your antics. We know you've done a lot for the party, but enough is enough.
And I say enough is enough about Nyesom Wike. Now, let's go looking at Atiku Abubakar and Bola Tinubu, looking at these two veteran politicians in Nigeria. Do you think this election could be their last chance at that seat?
For Atiku, I don't think so. Atiku is a dogged politician. He's been running for president since I was 17. President Atiku Abubakar during the SDP NRC days, when I started showing interest in politics. And I've been running for president since then. I think they just won an election that he probably didn't run. I think it was 2011 that he was not a candidate of a major political party, even if he ran in the primary, I believe. That was the election that he has not really been on the ticket. So he's not going to go. If he doesn't win in 2023, I believe Atiku is going to run for president until he dies, at least until he becomes president. For Asiwaju Bola Tinubu, we've always known that he's had an eye on the presidency for a very long time. But over time, he's built his bricks, he's all his machines, and just wait for the right time to strike, which fortunately for him is right now. So I believe that if he doesn't win by any chance, he would want to run again. Because you see this thing about power. Once you've tasted power as a government, you understand how it works. You become ambitious, you want to be president, and if you have the money, you have the resources, Tinubu controls Lagos, so you have the resources. So he doesn't get it in 2023, he will definitely try again in 2027. And likewise, Peter Obi, I've had conversations with people that said, look, this is not Peter Obi's time. Peter Obi's time will probably be in 2027. I would also see him winning this election. You see him, building the momentum that will give him the presidency in 2027. I say, no, don't discountenance this guy. Don't discount him. You know why? Because I see a scenario in this election where it's possible that Peter Obi gets the highest votes, but does not meet the 1/3 into 1/3 of the state's requirement. And if that happens, we'll go into a review. There's no way that APC and PDP will not meet the second provision, which is very important, 1/3 into 1/3 state. These two political parties have been around for a very long time. So easily, APC and PDP will make 25% in all the states of the Federation, 1/3 rather, in all the states of the Federation, and Abuja and the FCT. They will, but they may not get the highest number of votes. But it will be with the sanitization of the voters register and how people will vote. It will be very popular in highly populated in metro areas. That's where his catchment is. So it's possible, it's not impossible that he can score the highest number of votes, but it will be impossible to meet that second provision. So what happens?
Sorry to butt in here, Austyn. It's a scenario worth looking at, but again, you know how politicians are, incredible optimists in their own analysis. But quickly, one other big issue has to do with the same fifth ticket of the APC's candidate, the Muslim ticket. And it has refused to go, Austyn. And two proponents, or rather two antagonists to that, former Speaker of Nigeria's House of Representatives, Yakubu Dogara, and former Secretary to the Government of Federation of Nigeria, Babachir Lawal, they've been speaking to the extent that another group within the APC is saying, back off, do not overheat the polity. Do you think that's what this is about?
You see, I will understand why Bola Tinubu went the Muslim. He went that route simply to win, at all costs. It's a gamble that that he took, and he's having to to deal with the with the fallout or the fiasco that associated with it. It depends on who you talk to. I believe that the country is so divided today that the Muslim ticket, will naturally generate the kind of fiasco that you're seeing today with Khan, coming out to say, it's unacceptable, Christian leaders speaking against it and what have you. But it's politics. Do I think that somebody Bola Tinubu is a bigot? Absolutely not. I don't think he is. As far as I'm concerned, Bola Tinubu is someone that probably doesn't care whether you're a Muslim or Christian before he does anything or does dealings with you. But like I always say, it's only when it comes to sharing our common resources or stealing from Nigeria that these guys don't necessarily care about where you come from. So they want it to be shared, they want it to be stolen. They don't bring in religion. They don't care who brings the money. What's important is, it's me, you. How do we share? Religion does not play a role. But when it comes to politics, when it comes to where the people matter, they throw in ethnicity and religion, as a political tool. So it's all, political antics. For me, do I really care? Well, it depends on my mood. Sometimes I care, sometimes I don't. But I don't think, somebody is somebody that I would be afraid of, as a Muslim, to govern me as a Christian. absolutely not. But I also understand the feelings and plights and complaints of some of you that have said it is wrong. Of course, they are correct in their own rights. So it depends on how you balance it. But I was surprised that we're having it's creating the fiasco that it's creating. Absolutely not. But it's not my problem. It's not your problem. It's the candidate's problem. So if he loses the election because of it, we all learn that tomorrow in this country, Nigeria has moved beyond 1992-93, where MKO, a Muslim from the south, fielded Babagana Kingibe, a Muslim from the north, I think from Borno, as his candidate, as his vice presidential candidate, and he won. So in this election, we will learn to see if Nigeria has moved, beyond what some people have said that the Muslim ticket will not Siwaju. So, I mean, after the presidential election in February, we'll see whether Nigerians actually, have embraced a Muslim. Because if for instance, if Tinubu wins, in 2023, running a Muslim ticket, it means that going forward, anyone can run a Muslim ticket. But I don't think a Christian ticket will ever fly in this country. Because those in the north, I'm not talking about the Muslims from the south, I'm talking about the Muslims from the north, will not accept it.
And Austyn, let's now move to the very last on the plate. Again, apologies to Button there, because that's what politicians are about. And you spoke about the frustrations of Nigerians, and many are asking what will be the conversation leading up to the coming elections. The economy, security. What do you think will be the top most three issues that Nigerians will want these candidates to address?
From what we sampled from, I think the first thing is the economy, closely followed by insecurity issues, and then probably the third thing will be, improving the infrastructure, because we're, at some point in this conversation, you talked about the collapse of the national grid. So this election is, number one is the economy, because everybody is feeling the pinch. I am feeling the pinch. We're all feeling the pinch, rich, poor, middle class, we're all feeling it. And after that will be, our security challenge. I think these are probably the two main issues in this election. Every other thing, comes there. But we are, it's a difficult time to be in Nigeria. I will admit that. We've never been through what we're going through right now, where crude is at an all-time high, and we are struggling to earn money to fund our budget. Look at Aramco in Saudi Arabia, declared about 80 billion profit, surplus. That was monies that they never projected or planned for. It was a windfall, and and Nigeria is not even making any money. The NNPC has not remitted $1 into a joint account where the proceeds from the sale of food goes into the account is being held at the JP Morgan Chase in New York. That account has not received $1 this year.
Quickly here, Austyn, so that doesn't slip away. But again, the NNPC in Nigeria, that's Nigeria's oil producing company, has come up to say, well, that's a lie.
Look, what NNPC has done, right, is to fund their current account, right, where they put in monies that they need to run their own operations. So it's like me having a current account in a bank. NNPC operates a current account in a bank at the CBN that only NNPC can use. Nigeria cannot use that money to say it's part of the foreign reserve or part of something that they can put in the FAT account. No, it's NNPC's operational account. So let's be clear. NNPC funds that account for its own operations. But NNPC has not paid a dime from the sale of crude into the account that it usually pays it into abroad, that is domiciled at the JP Morgan Chase. So NNPC is just, being, they're just playing, with words. Yes, they fund there's money in their own private account to run themselves. But there's no money, they haven't paid a dime. I was looking at an NNPC data some days ago. I think it was in their last report. In the part where it says monies, allocation of monies that are supposed to go, monies that are supposed to go into FAC or this account where it's meant to pay monies, proceeds of crude. That account has not received any money. It just says January, February, March, up till August, up to July, which confirms that it has not funded that account. So, let's not play games. We know what the issue is. The issue is that there's an organized theft of our crude.
And I think that's another issue that we should have you and a few other experts, journalists, and also economists to come and speak on one of Africa's biggest economy, talking about Nigeria. Austyn, we'd like to thank you for your time, for being such a nice company, speaking to us on developments in Nigeria, specifically as the country looks to opening up its campaign leading up to the big election for 2023. You can get to catch up on, pretty much more on our website, newscentral.africa. I'm Sulaiman. Many thanks for watching.